are now locked in and listening to The Issue.
This guy is a franchise quarterback, and no, I don't want to hear any pushback on that.
It feels like a top 10 roster to me. It feels like it can win a championship.
This is The Issue.
Yo, what's up? We are back. It is The Issue, Thursday, January 25th, episode 222, and we have a fantastic one for you today.
222 already, all right.
222. So, obviously, the divisional round of the playoffs happened. It was very interesting. Tons of storylines. We're going to hop into that first. You have a rant just kind of on the entire state of the divisional rounds and everything that happened, kind of going over all the big stuff there that you need to worry about. Now looking forward into the conference championship, getting closer and closer to the big day, the Super Bowl. Now these four teams that we have left are very interesting to look at. I mean, you have, I'd say, one of the most intriguing matchups in Kansas City and Baltimore.
That feels like it's going to be an all-timer to me.
If you let Detroit win, Detroit is a sneaky pick in the Super Bowl. If they can get past the 49ers.
They're 7-point underdogs.
And I think
doesn't that feel like a lot?
We'll get to it later, obviously, but I might like Detroit.
That's a lot of points. I as of right now at 7 points, I'm taking Detroit all day plus 7.
Fair enough.
I don't know about, I need to see the injury report, all that stuff, but whatever. Continue.
Yeah. The plan for the episode, like I said, Tim's rant will be the divisional round recap, and then we'll have hits and misses to round out the first segment. Into the second segment, we will have our conference championship predictions, and we will have our game of the week in there as well. It's just going to be games of the week. We're going to go over both.
Yeah, we're deep diving.
Yeah.
It's 20 minutes of deep dive on 2 games. I'm excited.
That should be good. And then into the third, we will have our news like we normally have it. And then our top 10 draft prospects. Looking forward now a couple of months to the NFL draft. Who's going to get who. And kind of just starting to look at who needs what is going to be the biggest, I guess, portion of that.
Yeah.
But that's the outline for the show today, guys. Thanks for watching, listening, however you found us. We are on YouTube, Amazon Prime Video, and Spotify. If you want to watch the show, if you want to listen to the show, head on over. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and, of course, the iHeartRadio app. Guys, this is The Issue.
Now, like you said, kind of talking about the divisional round here. Let's start, though. I don't know if any of you know this or care, but, we'll start with it. My major in college was exercise science, which we can argue what to do with that. Doesn't matter, right? But now I do like strength and conditioning. That's kind of my career path as of right now, right? And I'm not a doctor by any means, nor do I profess to be one, but I have had some classes and some experience where the one thing it taught me is no matter what I know, whatever, my training was in terms of, this class or this experience, right? This job, right? What I've been taught through college and my experience thus far is that I'm in a better spot than most people to look at data, make an assessment, and go from there, right? So, for example, hey, this new training style came out. Here's all the peer-reviewed data. There's 15 studies on it. Can I look through those studies and say, okay, this is what I would say I would conclude as right, wrong, good, bad. Here's the data. What does it mean, right? Interpreting data. And you did this a little bit when you were pre-med actually for a second, right? Yeah. So you did all that chemistry, you did all the bio-med stuff for a year or whatever. And so you get it, being able to look at studies and make a conclusion from it. And so that's what I think I'm very well versed to do with this divisional playoff, right? Kind of combining my 2 skills and my 2 passions, right? My education and now football, sports in general. And so you just see a lot of people kind of overreacting from the weekend and taking the data a little bit out of context. And what I mean by that is, let's start with actually this Saturday night game. San Fran pulls out a narrow victory versus the Packers. And people are like, whoa, that was San Francisco looked awful. Sure, they didn't play a great game in a torrential downpour against a formidable opponent, right? Everyone's like, well, they should have crushed them. They were a 10-point favorite. Do we understand that these are the final 8 teams in the playoffs? Like, these teams didn't get here by accident. People are like, well, Baltimore handled their business easily. Okay, good for Baltimore. Good for Baltimore, but we understand that that is the anomaly, right? Look at the scores, 34-10. That's the outlier. Then it's 24-21, 31-23, 27-24. That is how a playoff game goes. Go look at the data, right? Again, I can look at data and interpret it what I view as most correct. That's how playoff games go. They're close games. They're down to the wire. It's not easy to win in the playoffs. They're not all the games are 34-10. These games are tough games, especially when we kind of undervalued the Packers' talent quite a bit this year. Down the stretch, there's an argument that that's one of the top 5 rosters in football. They're young, so we didn't really know it, throughout the season. There was a lot of growth. They started slow. That's a really good roster. There is no shame in going down to the wire against a fantastic roster in Green Bay. No shame at all. We can also take some facts from that. We can take, hey, Brock Purdy without the Avengers squad, without when Deebo Samuel goes down and not everybody's perfectly healthy and not everything is perfectly rolling, is he a great quarterback? Absolutely not. Is he serviceable? 100%. We talk about, are you great when greatness is required? That last drive, he was fantastic. We consider a nitpick Brock Purdy's performance. When he absolutely had to have it, did he? Yes, he did. In the playoffs, when it matters most, absolutely he did. Absolutely he did. In games that he has started and finished in the playoffs, he has not lost. Okay, we consider a nitpick everything, and I'm not a huge Brock Purdy guy to begin with. I said he wasn't the MVP of the league. He's probably not a top 10 guy. Is he a top 15 guy? I would say yes. Absolutely, unequivocally yes. So there's a lot of overreaction there. Oh, they look terrible. Can I unsee that they look bad? No. It's certainly something to factor in. But to be like, oh, San Francisco's washed, they're look out for next year. They're going to lose a bunch of guys. Everybody's getting old, blah, 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 this. What are they going to do next year? I don't know. Probably win double-digit games and be in the playoffs again. Right? That's what San Francisco does. They'll be fine. Right? And are they favored this week? Yeah. Are they probably going to win? Yeah, I mean, probably. 7's a lot of points, and we'll get to that later, but ton of overreaction on San Francisco. Baltimore, Lamar's the MVP of the league. I mean, can we? I know that the playoffs technically don't factor into it. I mean, come on. You look at that game. What else would be your takeaway? I mean, the defense is spectacular. Lamar's the MVP of the league. Let's transition to those Sunday games, and we'll go Buffalo, Kansas City last because that was what I think is an all-timer with Buffalo or with Kansas City and Baltimore this coming week. I think we saw an all-timer on Sunday as well. But we'll start with that Detroit-Tampa Bay game. I thought Baker played well. I thought Jared Goff played really well. And I think that there's no doubt in my mind that Jared Goff's a top 10 quarterback. He absolutely is a top 10 quarterback in this league. Accurate, poised. He doesn't move very well, but within the pocket, he can kind of manipulate the pocket. I'm not saying he's Brady, but Brady had that quality where it's like, how come he can just kind of slide and maneuver and backpedal one step and move up and again, slide left, slide right, find throwing lanes. Jared Goff kind of reminds me of that in terms of his movement within the pocket. It's good enough to find throwing lanes and to find the open guy. And I think that's a very undervalued skill in this era of he doesn't run very much. I don't think Jared Goff needs to run very much. He moves well enough in the pocket. Detroit is absolutely a live dog. This coming conference championship, again, 7 points, a lot of points. That Kansas City-Buffalo game. My main takeaway is, if it wasn't then, when is it for Buffalo? If it wasn't their time to beat Kansas City when Kansas City is at their most vulnerable, when is it? And we called that game, or at least I called that game perfectly. I thought the Bills were going to win, but I had the Chiefs plus the points, and they ended up making that happen. And I think Buffalo, there was an argument that they played a little bit better. But for Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes to be that dominant on the road, was there any doubt anytime they got the ball, they're going to score? They're going to score. Even after that fake punt, people are crushing the play call to give the ball to Mecole Hardman. The play got like 8 yards. Like it was a good play. He just happened to reach out, which was stupid, and he fumbled. Whatever. Kansas City is fantastic. Patrick Mahomes is not going anywhere. And we heard, is this the next Brady Manning? Maybe. But to me, it feels like the Chiefs have kind of separated from everybody in their worst season in the Mahomes era. In the season where their offense was terrible, led the league in drops, not even and by their metric terrible, they were still top 10 in almost every metric that mattered. By their standard, awful. Drops everywhere. It felt almost Brady Belichick-esque. Everybody played perfectly. No, there weren't any drops. Travis Kelce was back to form. Marquez Valdez-Scantling figures out how to catch. Rashee Rice looks like a 1. That's exactly what a championship team looks like. I'm very interested to see this next round. I don't know what happens. To flip the script for Buffalo, I mean, what a heartbreaking loss. Another wide right. That is going to haunt that franchise forever. I mean, that kick and just the words wide right in general is going to haunt Buffalo forever. I do feel a little bit bad. I'm not a big Buffalo fan, but I actually feel bad for them because that's a brutal way to lose, a brutal way to get bounced, a brutal team to get bounced against, right? That's been their kryptonite, their Achilles heel now for a couple years, especially in the playoffs, obviously. But it's just a ton of overreaction. Oh, Buffalo's terrible. No. No, they're going to go win, again, 10, 11, 12 games next year. They're going to be right in the thick of it. Josh Allen's still a stud. Are they going to make some tweaks? Probably. Does Stephon Diggs come back? I don't know. But they'll go get another receiver. They have 2 really good tight ends. Their offensive line's fine. They'll find a run game. Josh Allen's still great. McDermott's still a good coach. Great, who knows? But he's still a really good coach. They'll be back. Let's not overreact about any of this. Again, these are the final 8 teams. Do people realize how hard it is to win in the playoffs? I don't think they do. It's a very, very tough league. You're down to the 8 best teams in football. It is what it is. Take a deep breath. We just saw an all-time weekend in terms of football. That San Francisco-Green Bay game was unbelievable. Both games on Sunday were fantastic. Even that Saturday game was really good for 2.5 quarters. Everything, it was fine. It was good. It was a great weekend. Don't overreact. San Francisco is going to be fine. Green Bay is going to be fine. The teams that won, the teams that lost, they'll all be fine. They have good quarterbacks. They have good coaches. Everything's going to be okay. Take it for what it is. Don't overreact. There's some things we can take away. There's definitely some issues that we can see with some teams, but they're all very good football teams. We're down to the final 8, and we're now down to the final 4, and I can't wait to watch it.
It was really a fabulous week of NFL football. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say now, after watching Buffalo lose in that way, again, it makes me so happy that we have Chris Boswell in Pittsburgh.
Absolutely.
You take it for granted sometimes when they jog out there and a 41, a 43-yarder is just automatic.
Yep.
You never have to question it. And just seeing their season come crashing down like that, I'd figure out where that kicker is. I would probably wrap him in bubble wrap and keep him close to a trained health professional for the next couple of weeks here.
Yeah.
He's going to be
again,
he's going to be riding
the biggest takeaway from
Valley,
Buffalo,
dude.
The biggest takeaway from Buffalo, it's like that was your opportunity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what really sucks for Buffalo. It's like
you finally got Kansas City
at their weakest, like that
on the road for them.
Yep.
Like this was the year. If there was going to be a year to beat them, this was the year.
Yeah. I don't think their window's closed, but it definitely started to creep a little bit more closed. It's not fully closed, especially when you have Josh Allen. Like it's not closed. But it's a shot. It's a shot to the heart.
They're going to hear the audio. And there's a snap, kick, the ball is down, kick is up, and wide right.
Wide right. Actually, wide right.
Again.
Did you see the guy crying in the stands?
Yeah.
I feel for that guy, man. That sucks.
Yeah, that does...
Is what it is.
The best thing. Anyway, that was a ton of football this week. We had a lot of predictions about everything. It's time to go over where we were right and wrong in hits and misses.
Hit number 1. The bets. Come on now. It just rolls on weekend to weekend. 3-1
Fantastic.
During the divisional round. So far this season, or I guess in the playoffs, we are now 8-2. If you date back to last wild card, we're 13-3. We talk about it all the time. Greatness when greatness is required, when the lights are the brightest. Mm-hmm. Bang. What are we? I don't know. Have we been keeping track of what we're at percentage-wise, including playoffs? We were at 56% at the end of the regular season, and now we've gone 5-1 and 3-1.
So we were.
We've got to be at 60% now.
Yeah, we were 49 and 39 at 56%.
That's wild. And now you add 8.
13 and 2 to that.
No, that was dating back to last year. So now we're you had 8 and 2 to that.
8 and 2.
So 49 plus 8, 57.
Yeah.
2, 41. So 57 and 41. I'm not a mathematician, but that sounds pretty.
We'll do the math later.
That sounds pretty good. Well, that's almost 100 games. We're a little bit. So that'd be 57%. We're probably a little bit better than that. 'Cause not quite 100. So we're at 58, 59%, somewhere around there. That's fantastic.
Which is just awesome.
Guys, the bets are on SoBet for the playoffs, so go check that out. Link in every description, bio, whatever.
Could the issue,
yeah. Mr. Moine here. We expected, and we kind of predicted. I did a little rant saying, like, I think one of the following 3 teams, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, or Dallas, if not 2, if not all of them, should move off a coach. Not that any of them are bad coaches, although I don't think Nick Sirianni is as good as the other 2. But there's just sometimes things run their course, right? Like Mike McCarthy, I think it's run its course. Tomlin's been here for, 17 years? I just think we've seen enough. It has kind of run its course. He's kind of maximized his potential here. It doesn't mean he's a bad coach. Like, for example, teams that need Washington, I think, would be really good. I think the Chargers, we've seen Tomlin with a star quarterback, Big Ben, can be a really good head coach. I think there's teams that would use him, that need him a little bit more. But nonetheless, none of them are going to move off the coach. In fact, Nick Sirianni and that staff is now going to get an entire new coordinator staff. They've now fired the DC and the OC, so now they have to go get completely new coordinators again, new coaches. Who knows what will end up happening in Dallas. I know Pittsburgh's looking for a new OC, and they're going to look outside the building, thank God. But I just expected one, if not more than one, of those teams to move off the head coach, and none of them did.
Yeah, I was really expecting that.
Especially Philly.
To be a mass layoff. Now, here's the thing. If the new OC and DC don't work in Philly, like if this year,
I think this is it for Sirianni.
If it's not up to standard, you are now the independent variable. We moved you to.
He is the. You're right.
There is
the
nothing else to blame.
Variable. Yeah,
there is nothing else to blame.
Yeah, it's all on him now. It's one of those that he doesn't obviously look good all season, but if they don't win a playoff game and look good in a playoff game, they lose. If not, win it all. If they don't look good in the playoff game, they do end up losing. I think he's gone.
Isolated is the word I was looking for.
There it is, isolated. I like
isolated.
That. Yeah, isolated.
Yes.
Okay. Hit number 2 here. We said it in the keys to victory, guys. Sometimes you guys got to listen, all right? We said Travis Kelce legacy game. Boom. We said that's the key to win. The linebackers were backup linebackers for Buffalo. We said Pat Freiermuth and Mason Rudolph looked like prime Brady Gronk for stretches of that game, right?
Yeah.
Travis Kelce and Mahomes are going to look good. And they did. Kelce 5 for 75 and 2 touchdowns. In the biggest moments, he stepped up. And we called that.
Yeah, whatever.
I expected more from you, but that's fair. Yeah, whatever.
I mean, like, I know.
No. Yeah, it's a good point.
We did say that.
Not much else to be said. Enough said.
Just not what I was hoping for, we'll say.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. We'll get to that here in a second.
So over the Chiefs.
Miss number 2 here. Buffalo, they just... I said... I think it was after that Philly loss. I said that was actually one of the best losses. I think I might pick them to go pretty far in the AFC, maybe even win it. I think at one point I said maybe my Super Bowl pick. But that was because really good run game. The offensive line was playing better. They weren't all on Josh Allen's shoulders. What do you know? Second half, it's like, hey, Josh, go save us. Was once again the leading rusher. We've seen it before. This is not a championship. That's not a championship way to win. That's not a championship recipe. I don't understand how many times that they have to make the same fatal flaw for them to learn from it. I just don't get it. Like, they lean too much on Buffalo. I said I actually like them this year because late down the stretch in the season and even last week in the playoffs, they weren't leaning on him too much. Even in the first half of that game, they weren't leaning on him too much. Next thing you know, second half rolls around, Josh ends up being their leading rusher. It's not a recipe to win.
When they fall into that, like, screw it, oh shit moment, that's the only thing they know how to revert to is just like Josh Allen save us.
When it gets tight, they kind of throw the game plan out the window. They throw what they know is best for the game out the window and just say, Josh, figure it out.
Now, the thing is, like, it's bleak in Buffalo because you haven't been able to do it the last couple of years. Kansas City has been a buzzsaw.
I don't think...
This year, Kansas City was a little bit down.
Yeah, I don't think Kansas City is this down next year.
But like, I don't think so either. But like, even if they did win that game, they get in and now they have to go play Baltimore. I don't love that matchup either for Buffalo. Like,
I would agree.
That's why it's so tough to come out of the AFC because I guess out of either of the two conferences, but especially the AFC, it doesn't matter who has a down year. There's going to be somebody, elite quarterback with a just absolute stacked roster around him that you're going to have to battle your way through.
It's pretty much every round you're going to get either a Hall of Fame coach or a future Hall of Fame coach or future Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean? Like round 1, I know that they made it look a little easier than most, but like Tomlin will be a Hall of Fame coach, dispose of him. Mahomes will be a Hall of Fame quarterback. You know, you would have had to dispose of him, right? Next thing you know, if they did move on, now you have Lamar and Harbaugh. Probably both will go to the Hall of Fame, especially if Lamar keeps going on this trajectory.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting. All right, thanks, computer. Hey, number 3 here. The Pirates are making moves, and we kind of said it. We said, maybe does it seem like an NLDS roster? I know you don't love the Chapman move, but they have a really, really young pitching staff. They've now went out and signed 3 veteran pitchers. Whether they're great or not, I don't need Chapman First of all, they have Bednar. I don't need Chapman to have 40 saves. Can he be a good setup man? I think he can. He's still 80% of what he was, and that's better. So it's that, or am I going to take a risk? Am I going to roll the dice on some AAA guy that might be good? Okay. I know Chapman's going to be 80% of what he was.
Yeah, I think if anything, what the signing does is, it, like you said, adds veteran presence to a young team.
At bare minimum, they're trying. They're making moves. They're making an effort.
It's just the thing that annoys me every single year is when the Pirates go out and they sign a veteran that doesn't, in the back half of their career, has had a great, 15, 20-year career somewhere else, and the Pirates would have never paid for them during their prime. And then it's like, oh, well, now that we still got this big name, and bring them in, sell a couple jerseys. I don't think it feels exactly like that, although that's what I'm forced to go back to in my head every time I see a veteran signing. But I do agree with you. I think the Pirates win a wild card. I think they win a wild card series.
They are making really good steps in the right direction. Again, you're right. They're not because they're never going to make a flashy signing. They have to kind of, and this isn't, the general manager has to work with what he has, and it's a cheap owner and a cheap front office. Period. End of story. And he's doing, I think, a good job for what he has. And we said they should make moves. They should try to contend, and I think they are at least attempting to do so with the resources they have. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's
fair. Mr. Number 3 here. We kind of, when we did our draft grades, kind of hammered the Lions because they didn't get a ton of value out of the first round. I was like, a running back and a linebacker, it's not a ton of value. I love their second-round pick, Sam Laporta. But I was a little bit critical on the first-round pick. Both of them, they're both studs. Second-round pick and Brian Branch is also good. So their first 4 picks are all studs. Jahmyr Gibbs is an animal. Jack Campbell's been good as a linebacker. Not great, but he's been good. I think he's hurt, actually, but it doesn't matter. Sam Laporta's been fantastic, right? So if you look at their divisional game, leading tackler, Brian Branch, rookie in the second round. Leading receiver, Sam Laporta, rookie in the second round. Leading rusher, Jahmyr Gibbs, rookie in the first round. Like, they have hit 7 to 8 home runs over the last 2 drafts. Like, all pro level players, Pro Bowl level players, high end starters in the past 2 drafts. You got to give them a ton of credit.
Yeah, I was actually, funny enough, just watching the press conference from Dan Campbell when he got hired 3 years ago. And remember how controversial that was? You're going to kick us down on our way back up, we're going to bite off a kneecap. Then we're going to get kicked down again, it's going to take 3 shots, and then on our way back up, we're going to take off your other kneecap.
Yeah.
And
so like, did you see the sign that everybody was complaining about? Like some fan had a sign like hunk a kneecap out of it, and then it had like the Vikings logo. And then it's like hunk a kneecap out of them, like, or like take a kneecap Vikings, take a kneecap like Rams, like hunk out of them, I don't know, next team. And then it was like NFC Championship. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, go check it out. People are like, well, that's insensitive. But it's because a couple people got injured, had some knee injuries for the Vikings and for the Rams, but nobody realized that it was in reference to
that speech.
To the speech. It wasn't in reference to the fact that 2 people got hurt. It just happened to be an unfortunate coincidence. But like Justin Jefferson was like, this ain't cool. It's like, bro,
come on.
And people's like, this isn't right for the NFL to promote this. Like, bro, you don't know ball. You haven't been watching that. Because it's not in reference to injuries. It's in reference to the fact that Dan Campbell, in a professional setting, talked about biting kneecaps off, and everybody laughed at it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reference of the sign.
It just, whatever. People are sensitive,
But it was funny. Nonetheless, the Lions draft class, home runs, good for them.
I was going to say, he has it buzzing over there in Detroit, and it's good to see. It'll be a great game this weekend. It's going to be fantastic. And we will get into it once we come back from the break. When we come back, we will have our conference championship prediction and our games of the week. We're going over both of them. Deep dive into all the conference championship action that one could ever desire on the other side of the break.
Welcome back in on a pre-conference championship episode here on the 25th of January. Right next time. Wait, no. Do we have one more in January? I don't know how many. No. Our January was only got, 30 days?
25th.
31?
Yeah.
Either way, a week would be.
We're into February now.
I was going to say, next way, there's no 32.
No.
So I'll tell you that. I don't know if there's 30 or 31 or 29 or whatever, but I know there's not a 32.
Yeah.
So, we're chilling. All right, last one in January then. However you are here listening, watching, YouTube, Spotify are the 2 main ones to watch. We got iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, ton of other areas just to listen as well. So we appreciate you doing that. however you are consuming our content. Go check out TikTok, SoBet, code the issue. Look at all of our bets. We are 8-2 for the playoffs, 13-3 even dating back to last playoffs in our last 16. So we have been on a roll. I definitely recommend you tune in. We'll have 2 picks, maybe even throw in some prop bets. Who knows? For both of the games here on championship weekend.
I gotta say, in regard to the bets, if you're not telling us, and you're gonna realize where this quote is from. Were you afraid of making money? Why are you not telling?
Because you just like not making money.
Well, yeah, I guess the people that aren't following the bets are just afraid of making money at this point. I mean, we got more bets coming up this week. I'm assuming we're going to dive a little deeper into stuff. That way we can, get more than just like 2 spreads or 2 money lines, whatever it may be. But nevertheless, guys, go check that out. SoBet, code the issue when you sign up. You're not going to be disappointed in the decision for doing so. But we have our conference championship predictions. So the 2 biggest games of the year thus far, leading up to the Super Bowl. Here we go.
We'll start like we always do in a good chronological order. And that AFC Championship is first, 3 o'clock on CBS. I would imagine it'll be Romo and Nance, which I'm excited for. I know people kind of switch their opinion on Tony Romo. I think he's still great. I like him a lot. I don't know.
Yeah.
People have kind of cooled off on him. I think he's fantastic. Nonetheless, that's not what we're analyzing. Damn it! All right. Kansas City traveling to Baltimore. Baltimore, of course, the 1 seed. Kansas City, the 3 seed. Baltimore favored by 3.5, and the over/under is 44.5. Again, just kind of giving you guys the lines and what's going on here. If I could give you kind of how I see this game going, I think it's going to be one for the ages. I think it's going to be a back-and-forth game. I do view it more as a low-scoring game because I know it's Mahomes, it's Lamar, but I think the stars of both these teams is the defensive side of the football, the linebacking unit for Baltimore, the back end, the secondary, right, and their tackling, their physicality, and their coverability for Kansas City. So I think it's a lower scoring game. Like 44.5 feels about right. It feels kind of like a 24-21, 23-20 type of game, like low 20s, maybe even a team in the high teens. I don't view this as like a 35-30 type of shootout. I just don't see it being that. Would it shock me? No, because again, these offenses are unbelievable. It wouldn't floor me, but that's kind of where I view the game being roundabout. I'm not 100% sure what side I love. So we do this a lot during big games. Think about going from position group to position group. Let's start on the offensive side of the football, and I'll kind of pose you the question.
Yeah.
And this is as of right now. You're seeing how they're playing right now, but you do have to take into account experience, Mahomes or Lamar Jackson.
Mahomes. I know what Lamar does well, and I know he's incredibly special, and I think he's MVP caliber this year. But at the end of the day, ask yourself, can you really go against Mahomes in the playoffs? Can you go against... I know Lamar's good, but we haven't seen him at this stage.
In a vacuum of Lamar or Mahomes, like nothing else matters, just quarterbacks right now, which is what we're comparing, I would agree with you. I would go Mahomes.
Yes, but...
I think Lamar's the MVP this year. I think he's dynamic. I think he's a top 3 quarterback in the league. But I think it just so happens that Mahomes is number 1.
I don't want to take away from Lamar. And this is not a knock on Lamar, saying that, Mahomes is far and away the better guy. I think Lamar is going to provide more special in this game. But I think overall, from a game manager, from the quarterback position in the playoffs, you have to take Mahomes.
Have you seen that he now has 16 full playoff games? So it's basically a full season, or traditionally what a full season has been. He's 13-3. His pass rating's 107. He's got like 38 touchdowns to 7 picks.
Yes. And the playoffs are a different animal.
In a full season of just playoff games against the best quarterbacks, the best coordinators, the best defenses, he's 13-3 with 107 pass rating. It's stupid.
Yeah.
It's stupid good. I would go Mahomes as well. Okay, running backs, the entire running back room.
Baltimore.
I would lean Baltimore as well. I think the depth that they have, I think it's Pacheco, and then after that, I don't trust Clyde Edwards-Helaire and whoever their other backups are. I think top to bottom, Gus Edwards, that Keaton Mitchell's got some speed. I like the well-rounded nature of the run game and of the backfield for Baltimore, so I would lean Baltimore, although I don't think it's a wide margin.
I agree.
I think Pacheco is good. He's physical. Let's go offensive line. I would probably go ahead and lean Baltimore because of what they provide in the run game. But again, this is inches, not feet. Kansas City didn't allow a sack. Ed Oliver, who has been a stud for Buffalo, didn't even get a quarterback pressure on Mahomes. Pass blocking has been fantastic for Kansas City, but I think this game's going to be one with physicality, and with that, I would just lean Baltimore slightly.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree there. When you look at the better running game, and the better running back committee, generally that's going to be where you find the better offensive line as well.
Yeah, weapons. I would also lean Baltimore. I think Baltimore has the better weapons in this game. I think Mark Andrews probably comes back. Isaiah Likely, the tight end, has been fantastic in his place, and so now you'll have both of them. I like Zay Flowers. I like OBJ. I like Bateman. And I think they might not have the Travis Kelce level stud, but I think they have a lot of really good elements. They have a ton of depth. I think they have about 5 or 6 weapons that I really, really like. Likely, Andrews, the 3 receivers. So I would go ahead and lean Baltimore, although Kelce playing well, Rashee Rice playing well, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling playing well is certainly close.
Yeah, but I've seen too much lackluster this season from those guys in Kansas City. Like, there's nothing that I can point to and really hang my hat on them being the better weapons from
Yeah, I would
Baltimore.
agree. I would go Baltimore. So, as of right now, I would say Baltimore's offense has the edge. Let's go on the defensive side of the football. Let's go with the front 4. The defensive line, I would also go Baltimore. I think the depth is fantastic. For Kansas City, it's Chris Jones and a bunch of guys. They're fine. And Baltimore might not have the big name of Chris Jones, but they rotate 7-8 guys deep, and they lead the league in pressures. Matabike has been fantastic. I would go Baltimore. I think the depth is stark. It is stunning how much depth they have up
I'm
front.
going Baltimore as well. So now, you want to go, let's set some parameters here. You thinking secondary and then coach?
Well, I was going to go linebacker, secondary coach.
Okay,
so let's go linebackers next. I would also go Baltimore. I think it's the best linebacking duo in football. I think it's up there with Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. There's an argument that I would take Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. I think there's a legitimate argument. Queen is sideline to sideline fast, and Roquan Smith is a bulldozer Ray Lewis style. I would go Baltimore.
yeah.
Secondary, I would go ahead and go Kansas City. I think their safeties are good. I like L'Jarius Sneed. I like McDuffie a lot. They all tackle. They're all very physical. There's not a lot of yards after the catch, so I would go Kansas City in the secondary.
But this is also another one where it's inches, not feet, once again.
Yeah, because Kyle Hamilton's pretty good. I like Humphrey, the DB over in Baltimore. Peters is still serviceable, although not great.
Who really, ask yourself, is going to put up numbers against this Baltimore defense, like in the secondary?
If it's going to be anybody, maybe Mahomes. But in terms of receiver, I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. So,
Okay, so coach.
Okay, so coach, I would go Andy Reid. Yeah, I think Harbaugh's good, but I think Andy Reid's better. Andy Reid's an offensive genius. I mean, did you see the adjustments at halftime? They were just in a rhythm. They could not be stopped in the second half. They were in a really good rhythm. Okay.
So Baltimore wins 5 of 8 categories.
5 of 8 categories. Okay, so it's 5-3. That's not that bad. Let's go ahead and go into keys to victory, and then we'll give you kind of our predictions here. Kansas City offense, I think it's got to be a Mahomes legacy game because we mentioned where's the matchup disadvantage. I would argue the secondary is the weakest point of the entire team for Baltimore. Mm-hmm. That's where you have to attack them. You cannot get beholden to the run game. I know you want to run the ball. That'd be great to be balanced. But it's going to have to be on Mahomes' shoulders more so than almost any other game, I think, in his career in the playoffs.
I think this is going to be the biggest test that he's ever had. And you're going to Baltimore, too. So it's not like you have, anything on your side with home field Arrowhead.
I would agree.
The pressure's on, man.
Yeah, Kansas City defense, you got to stop the run. You have to stop the run. And because if they're downhill, if they're running downhill, Lamar is unstoppable. I'm not saying Lamar is easy to stop, period. But if they become one-dimensional, Lamar does have some limitations. He's not the best pocket passer. He's good. He's gotten a ton better since he's entered the league. I think he's still underrated in that category. But if they can't run the ball and he has to drop back and everybody knows it, especially if Kansas City can get a lead and force him to drop back, I don't love that matchup for Lamar and Baltimore. So if you're Kansas City, you have to stop the run.
Yep.
Baltimore offense, you got to let Lamar loose, kind of counteracting that. It's like if you can get Lamar, I'm not saying he has to have 14 carries, but if you can get Lamar 8 to 9 carries and strategically space them out, scrambles, third down, second and longs to make it third and short and third and manageable, those to stay ahead of the chains, right? Those big runs for Lamar, about one big run a drive is about all you need from him. Maybe late in the game, you're talking 2 to 3 runs per drive. But I think if you can get Lamar 9 to 10 carries, upwards of 60 yards, I think you'll be in business for Baltimore.
Yeah, let him be special. Let him do what he does well. Teams can't stop it. So this Kansas City defense is going to be in shock.
People always focus on what Lamar...
Rush number 3, 4?
Yeah, people always are shocked. Or people always talk about what Lamar can't really do. Oh, he's not the best from the pocket. How about let's focus on what he does do? Insanity with his legs. Mm-hmm. I mean, the fastest, most electric ball carrier regardless of position, I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So. Baltimore defense used Kyle Hamilton, the safety, to guard Travis Kelce. He is a stud. Patrick Queen and Kyle Hamilton will be the primary people that will guard Travis Kelce, and Kyle Hamilton's a stud. A stud out of Notre Dame. Really, really good safety.
You're going to have to blanket them somehow. So
Yeah.
and shut down Kelce. I think that's a great matchup, especially size-wise. It's going to be really tough to find any sort of matchup where Kelce doesn't just dominate you, especially in these sort of playoff games. He always finds his way open. And then once he gets the ball in his hands, it's pretty much over if you're undersized.
Dude, it's back and forth.
So who do you have?
I know the signs point to Baltimore. I have to go Kansas City. I have to go Kansas City on the road. It's a 23-20 Kansas City win.
No. I'm taking Baltimore. I have to take
fair.
Baltimore. They're winners in 5 of the 8 categories that we have. I know it's quarterback.
But Lamar's not that. He's not a significant drop off.
No.
I think it's a fair point.
No, that's almost a wash. It's just you got to take Mahomes just because it's Mahomes.
So who are you going with?
Baltimore.
Okay, give me a score.
20. Give me 28. 28-23.
28-23 Baltimore. Okay, that's interesting. So you like Baltimore and the points. I'll take Kansas City as an underdog. It's interesting. Let's go ahead and flip the script to the NFC Championship game. Well, let's do that same thing. So let's start at quarterback. I would take Jared Goff over Brock Purdy. I think he's a more natural thrower. He's taller, stronger arm, a little bit more accurate down the field. And if there are elements, I'm not saying Goff is a great cold weather, rainy type quarterback, but we saw Purdy have significant issues throwing that ball in the weather. I think Jared Goff will not have as many issues if weather does become a factor. If it doesn't anyway, I still think he's a better quarterback. I'll take Jared Goff.
I agree. In a dome, that guy turns it on. Now, I get that it's going to be outside, but what are the chances there's 2 rainy games in San Francisco back-to-back?
Good point.
So, I don't know. I haven't looked at the weather, and it's, I guess, pretty far out to even predict that.
Yeah. Okay.
Like precipitation. But either way, I like Jared Goff
As
more
of
than
right
Brock
now-
Purdy any day of the week.
As of right now, there's not supposed to be precipitation. So,
Nice.
okay, let's go run game. Now, you think it's crazy because it's like, well, McCaffrey's that good, but they have 2 backs in Detroit
Yeah,
that
I was
are
going to
really,
say,
really
by
good.
committee, Detroit has it. But if you're looking at Detroit's number one
think-
running back and San Francisco's number 1 running back, you have to give it to McCaffrey.
I think I'm gonna go San Francisco anyway, and I think one of the factors is you have to factor in how good is their run scheme. I'm not talking about offensive line. I'm talking about the Shanahan run scheme. I think is elite. So I'll go ahead and go San Francisco by an inch.
Okay. That's another one that's really close. I mean, that's the thing about these games. No matter the category you look
It's
at it,
interesting.
you break it down, there's not a vast
I think the only
drop-off.
area that there is vast is I think the offensive lines. I think Detroit is significantly better. It's Trent
Yeah.
Williams and a bunch of dudes. They're good. They're serviceable, but Detroit is the best offensive line in football. I don't think there's a significant argument against that.
I agree with that.
Okay, now let's go weapons.
You have to go San Fran.
I would go San Francisco. Yeah,
Yes.
because I think what McCaffrey can do in the pass game. I think Debo, if he's healthy, Jennings, Kittle, Ayuk, they're unbelievable. I'll go San Francisco
But
there.
still, that's not a knock on Detroit because Detroit has a lot,
They have a lot of good
dudes
weapons
as well, too.
Yeah. Let's go defense. Front 4. I would probably lean San Francisco slightly, although they've been playing a little bit under what I think they can. But Chase Young, Nick Bosa, I like Hargrave up the middle, so I'll go San Francisco by an inch or 2.
Yep. This is the story of it all.
Yeah. Linebackers, I'll go San Francisco as well. I think next to Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen, those are the best backers in football.
Yep.
Secondary,
San Francisco.
San Francisco as well. Yeah, I would go San Fran. Although neither are very special. And then coach, I would go San Francisco.
Wow, sweep there at the end.
So let's go ahead and get to those keys to victory. Detroit offense, you have to run the rock. You have to use that offensive line. If you turn Jared Goff into a statue, you are screwed. Point blank. End of story. I can read you his numbers against pressure again. I've done it for like 3 weeks in a row, but he's not good against pressure. So again, Detroit offense, run the rock.
Yep.
Detroit defense, turn Brock Purdy into a pumpkin. We saw it. We were actually watching the game together, and I said, as soon as Debo went out, what did I say?
You already said Brock's about to turn into a
I
pumpkin.
said, watch Brock turn into a pumpkin, and he did. So I said, you have to turn Brock Purdy into a pumpkin if you're Detroit. You got to get pressure on him. You have to muddy the looks, take away those easy first window throws, and make him stand in and try to deliver, and I don't think he'll be able to if you can do that. San Francisco offense, you have to adapt. We saw their game plan. It's raining, it's wet, and Brock can't throw, and they still try to spread it out and throw it around.
Yeah.
Like, If that's your game plan, that's fine. The circumstance is going to dictate if that game plan is still viable, and it wasn't viable, and they didn't adjust until like the last drive. Like, you have to adapt. So I would say adapting for the San Francisco offense. Key to win. San Francisco defense, use those linebackers against Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta is the number one target for Jared Goff, and you have two linebackers that can match up. Use them. Point blank, end of story.
You got to find a way to stop them.
Here's my game. San Francisco, 31-27, San Francisco dub. I think it's going to come down to it. I think they get a touchdown late. I think it's going to be back and forth. I think it's going to be one of the better games of the playoffs thus far.
San Francisco, 33-31. Detroit loses.
Ooh, that's close.
Last-second missed field goal.
Wow, calling another last-second field goal miss. That's rough. So those are the games, guys. I'll take San Francisco. You're also going to take San Fran. I'll take Kansas City. You're taking Baltimore. Cannot wait to watch it. I mean, I'm over the moon. This is so exciting.
This is a great slate, and I'm glad how it shook out this year. Now, if I can just give my own little piece here. Baltimore better beat the brakes off of Kansas City. I am so tired. And if I have to watch Taylor Swift in a Super Bowl, God. Because you know, if they make it to that game, 30 to 40% of the airtime of the entire Super Bowl is going to be focused on Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl. I can't stand the storyline anymore. The Kelsey brothers annoy the living piss out of me.
Okay, I like Jason now. I like Jason. I think he's hilarious.
I like Jason, but he's starting to get gelled in there just because of his association with Travis. Just because of association bias.
Is Usher doing is he the halftime guy?
Of course he is.
If the Chiefs make it, what are the odds that you see a guest appearance from Taylor Swift walking down from the booth?
This is the shit I don't want to hear. This is what I don't want to hear.
But would it surprise you even a little bit?
No, and that's what I don't want to happen. That's what I don't want to hear.
Actually, I'll go out on a limb here and say if they do, I guarantee it happens.
Lamar Jackson is everybody in America's savior this week. He has the ability to be that. I
would like to say I also agree with you.
The Baltimore Ravens need to come in, kick the door down. Don't shake anybody's hand. You walk in, you kick the door down, you punch them in the teeth, you kick them in the teeth, you take a kneecap.
You send them on their way.
And you send them back to Arrowhead, crying for the first time in a while. Yeah, and the Kansas City Chiefs need it. They need a good humbling. So, anyway, I'm a big Baltimore guy this week.
Love it.
Big Ravens fan.
Love it. Guys, don't go anywhere. We will have sports news on the other side of the break, some new coaching hires in the NFL. And then we'll go ahead and transition into our top 10 draft prospects going into the NFL draft. Again, starting that process a little bit early, so don't go anywhere, guys.
As always, here we go on a third segment. Wheels beginning to come off.
Of course.
Glue
Dancing.
Starting to become unglued. It's the third segment of the issue. It's by far the most entertaining, and we have...
it's probably the most unhinged segment every week.
Yes.
I think we have the same conversation every week.
Anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
We have the news. We have our top 10 draft prospects for the 2024 draft. It's going to be fantastic. Looking ahead to the NFL is always good. Whenever you get a chance to take a peek into the most interesting league in all of sports.
Yeah.
One thing I will say before we get going here, just kind of like a little sidebar. I was thinking about it earlier when we had it in hits and misses, but I'm kind of excited to start talking a little bit of baseball.
Very excited. Yeah. It's a breath of fresh air. I would say that. I love football. I love the NFL. Like college football, I think that's where most of the viewership lies, where most of the ease of following. I think the main reason we don't follow, because I think we both know probably more in terms of the technique and the ins and outs of like the skills of baseball, probably more than football. But I literally refuse to follow 162 games. I just can't do it.
Yeah, it's tough. But nevertheless, doing some preseason stuff, doing some rankings, and getting into that will be...
We keep up with it. We keep up with it more than I would say most people do.
It'll be good.
Yeah.
Other than that, guys, thanks for sticking around this long. Go check out our Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. All of it can be found in the link tree, and the link tree can, of course, be found in the description of the episode or separate video. No matter how you're watching this, no matter how you're viewing us, our link tree is there. Or you can find it at theissuesports.com. While you're over there, go sign up for the newsletter. They have been just fantastic, hitting on all cylinders recently. You are missing out if you are not a subscriber. But Like I said, we're going to start off with the news here. Let's jump right into it. We got 3 stories. Here we go.
Story number 1 here, the Tennessee Titans have made a hire for their head coaching position, and it is Bengals former Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan. Look, what they were able to do with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, they always had a consistent run game. My only concern is how much was Zach Taylor, right? Zach Taylor being a McVay type of, disciple and tree, obviously Brian Callahan then following suit to that, so he's under the same tree. But it's like how much of the offensive success has been Zach Taylor? How much of it has been Brian Callahan? That's always my concern with guys that come out of Kyle Shanahan specifically. Because what OCs actually call plays under Kyle Shanahan? 0.
Yeah.
Right? Like, same thing with Andy Reid. Andy Reid's the play caller. Like, I just don't... How much did he do? That's my question.
I don't want to say nothing, but I think he at least has the schemes and the mental wherewithal, we can say, to put into effect a solid playbook.
So now with him, and then we'll get to the next story. Actually, let's get into the next story, and then we'll kind of circle back to both of them.
Okay.
Story number 2 here. Chicago Bears have hired Shane Waldron, the former OC in Seattle, another Shanahan McVay disciple. Again, he was the former Seattle OC, will now be the Chicago offensive coordinator, and presumably Caleb Williams' first offensive coordinator, I would imagine, unless you want to stick with Justin Fields, and that's a completely different discussion that we'll get to here in a second. But he, I think, in my eyes, did more. Because under Pete Carroll, Pete said, hey, Dad, you have the offense. Figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, you take care of it. Brian Callahan, not so as much, just because Zach Taylor was an offensive coach and he was in all those meeting rooms. He was at that practice every day with the offensive side of the football. He was really big in Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow said it, really big in his development. How much did Brian Callahan do? I think Shane Waldron did more, yet somehow he has a lesser job now. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Honestly, it comes down to, I guess, not luck of the draw, but like, how personable are you? How do you interview? Like, little stuff like that when it comes like job by job. No, I think, you can make the argument that Waldron has done a lot more and has had more on his plate.
With Geno Smith. They got to the playoffs. He won a game with Drew Lock.
Right, but let's not forget what Cincinnati was before that.
Joe Burrow.
Yeah, but before Joe Burrow.
Like Andy Dalton.
The turnaround.
Right.
That we saw in Cincinnati. I think he's probably a very good leader.
He's probably,
he just doesn't have the experience in calling plays, in doing all of that stuff.
Again, we're nitpicking. He's probably a fine offensive mind, but also a stat for both of these. Every single team has now had to replace their offensive coordinator since 2022. So, like, Callahan and Waldron were the last two standing. Since 2022, all 32 NFL teams have had to replace their offensive coordinator. Whether that's firing, whether they leave, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Wow.
Offensive league. And it's like, here's what blows my mind is when people want to deny the fact that offense is more important now. Like, how many stats do I have to give you? 11 of 14 playoff teams. Look at all the playoff teams left. Kansas City, offensive. The Ravens, special teams coach. So that's kind of like a wash there. But they got a new offensive coordinator, and the changes have been drastic. So I would say offensive leaning franchise in terms of Lamar Jackson. They just went all in on Lamar. Offensive leaning. Obviously, San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan. Offensive leaning. Dan Campbell was a tight end. Really, really good offensive coordinator. Offensive leaning. It's like, what numbers, what stats, what do I have to show people for them to be like, oh, you're right, Bill Belichick's not the best coach ever anymore. Well, maybe ever, but right now he's not the best coach. Like, no shit. Like, no shit. And it's not that I don't like Mike Tomlin, but it's like, here's all the stats. Here's where the league is heading. And Pittsburgh's going in the other direction. We've had the worst offense in football, arguably, for the last 4 years. It's like, here's the stats, all offensive. Like, offensive coaches winning this. Here's how important offense is in 2023. Boom, 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 boom. But, dude, the linebacking core is pretty good under Tomlin. You're like, come on, what are we talking about here?
Yeah. No, I understand. I agree.
I don't know. Okay, story number 3, let's shift to college football, which will actually be a perfect segue to get to our draft prospect discussion. There's been a max exodus from Alabama. So Nick Saban obviously retires. Kalen DeBoer, the former Washington head coach, gets hired. We talked about that last week. I like the hire. I think he's a really good X's and O's coach. What was my one knock on him? I don't know if you remember. Let's see if you remember. This is a little test here. What was my one knock on Kalen DeBoer?
Ooh.
That's right. It's like a pop quiz up in here. I'll give you the answer. It's okay.
Okay, what is it?
Recruiting. He's never been one to go out. That's why I said keep your eye on him going to like an Atlanta or something in the NFL because you don't have to recruit your players in the NFL.
I do remember you saying that and
So-
how it's become such a it's become kind of not a fun job.
It's not an
because
enjoyable
you
job. It's
have
a
to
362-day a
every
year
single
job.
day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And
You have
he's
to
not-
recruit your own players.
And I think in your words, what you said is he's not the type to kiss the booster's ass.
Yeah, and I mean that because it's look, he didn't have to kiss the booster's ass at Washington because he's like, I know that I'm going to exceed expectations no matter what, and he did because it was the Pac-12 and they weren't very good before that, and he could get some talent in there, right? Michael Penix as well. But now in Alabama, it's like you have to recruit at that high of level, and now not only are they losing recruits that aren't even there yet. Julian Sayin, the quarterback, 5-star, left high school early, got there this spring. He already transferred out. He's going to Ohio State. Caleb Downs, best safety in the country as a freshman, transferred. He's now at Ohio State. There's been like 2 or 3 more guys that have transferred out. Now, granted, yes, he gets some of his Washington transfers in, some of the young guys. He got like a 5-star quarterback that's going to transfer in from Washington. So there's some give and take here. My question is, can DeBoer maintain Alabama's level of excellence? And if there is a dip, do we view that being a 2-year dip, 3-year dip, or is that a dip, he gets fired, and they just never get back up? Or do we think DeBoer can maintain, let's say, a top 10 level program?
I think he can maintain it. I think at the end of the day, look at Alabama's schedule. It's not like they're battling every single week.
But now with Texas and Oklahoma coming into the SEC, it's something. It's not everything. It's something.
It'll be a little more challenging, but at the end of the day, they're still going to play their FAUs, their Florida Gulf Coast, and like all these like small schools.
The Citadel.
Yeah, and just pack the schedule full of those. And yeah, you'll have your big games every now and then, but I think he'll be able to do enough to keep Alabama afloat. At least long enough for people to realize that, you know what, it's okay. Life goes on here at Alabama without Saban. And they'll be back to a very competitive team in 5 years.
Okay,
4 or 5 years. Maybe a full recruiting cycle.
I think that's even too long. I think and hear me out, Nick Saban, let me preface this by saying it. Nick Saban's one of the best college football coaches of all time. That's fine. In 2024, from an X's and O's standpoint, I would rather have Kalen DeBoer. Period. I think he's an offensive genius. I think he's one of the 10 best offensive minds in football, college, or pro.
Okay.
I think you're going to see, again, I'm not saying that Saban didn't get all he could out of the talent. I think there's an argument Kalen DeBoer is going to get more out of the offensive talent they have. I think they're going to have a top 3 offense next year. I think they're going to be ranked number 1 for big stretches of the year. I think they're going to be fantastic. I think they make the college football playoff as a top 6 seed. I think they win a playoff game or 2, not the national championship. But I think Kalen DeBoer is going to be a slam dunk because I think from an X's and O's standpoint, where college football is heading, football in general, offensive-leaning league, he is perfectly primed to take that and run with it. I think Kalen DeBoer does fantastic in Alabama.
Interesting.
A little hot take there.
Okay.
I think I mean it. Damn it, I mean it.
Standing on business, as they say these days.
On business. Guys, that was it for the news. Let's go ahead and transition into our draft prospect. Again, this isn't a mock draft. This isn't, what I think they should do, what I think they will do. We're not even talking what teams are in these slots. I'm saying here I think, objectively speaking, are the top 10 prospects going into the draft. Now, I'm going to throw it out there right now. Bo Nix wouldn't even be in my top 25. Do I think Bo Nix is probably a top 15 pick? Yeah, because he's a quarterback. Penix is closer to 20 for me in terms of prospect. He'll be a top 10 pick. All right, so like, just because they're not in here doesn't mean they're not going to be a top 10 pick. Like, I think my number 6 prospect probably falls to like 2025 in the actual draft itself. I think somebody will be getting a steal. So this isn't the order of how I think it's going to go because teams' needs, value, quarterbacks, all that.
Right. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Not a mock draft. Simply a ranking of prospects.
See, now normally we go from 10 to 1, but I don't think there's any shock at the top, so I wonder if we go 1 to 10. I don't know. What do you think we should do?
Let's stay with the norm.
Okay, let's stay with the norm. So we'll go 10 to 1. I think number 10 here, Rome Odunze, the wide receiver from Washington. Now, I didn't think he had a great game against Michigan. I thought him and Penix were just kind of off timing-wise. I think that's one of the best secondaries in college football in the last decade or two, that Michigan secondary. So I think that can happen. But he's big, strong, really, really strong hands. Kind of reminds me of an Alshon Jeffrey type, but I think he runs a lot better.
Yeah.
Big, strong at the catch point, jump ball type guy, can go down the field, push it. Good on more intermediate to deep routes, but can still be more of a tactician in short routes. I think he's a good route runner, strong hands. Rome Odunze at 10,
which is needed in the NFL today too. You go through the list of teams, who wouldn't want a guy like that?
I think a lot of people have Malik Neighbors ahead of him. I don't see that at all. I think Odunze is a much better prospect than Malik Neighbors. Maybe I'm crazy, but I feel fairly strongly about that. He's 6'3", 215. Neighbors is 6 foot 200. I would take Odunze over Malik Neighbors.
All right.
Number 9, Jaden Daniels. So I was like, he just seems kind of small to me. Seems very Bryce Young-esque. Thin, wiry, almost too small. And then I look, and he actually reminds me more of Lamar Jackson's body type. I don't think he moves as well as Lamar, but I think he's up there. I think he moves just as well as Kyler. He just doesn't look like Kyler because he's a lot taller and thinner than Kyler.
Yeah.
But he's 6'4", 220. He's got some size to him. You look at him, you're like, wow, he's pretty wiry, but he's tall. Bryce Young's 5'11" in cleats, right? That's a different type of small.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels can see over the line. He's 6'4", 220. He's big enough, and I think he'll continue to put on size. We've seen Lamar put on size, add a layer. I think Jaden Daniels could be much of the same. Very good, very experienced. I think he could walk in day one and be an impact player.
Well, what I like is that he has that style of play, but he also has the size and the frame to be okay and hopefully not take as many injuries as we've seen a Lamar, as we've seen a Kyler. These quarterbacks that are hypermobile, that rely on their legs, that scramble, that get out and run, take the ball themselves, that's fine, that's good. And it's proven to be pretty successful in today's league. But the problem is they're undersized, they get hit too often, and they end up injured. So having somebody with a little bit bigger of a frame that can be a little more sustainable when it comes to running like that, I think is a good thing to have.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and go with number 8. I think Dallas Turner, the edge from Alabama. So he's 6'4", 252. He's not the strongest edge. He's not the fastest edge. But the combination of size and bend around the corner, I don't think he's Myles Garrett. But I think it reminds me a lot of Myles Garrett, where it's he's not the fastest because T.J. Watt's the fastest, Nick Bosa's the fastest. I would argue Joey Bosa's faster. He's not the strongest. Aaron Donald's a lot stronger. I think there's other edge guys. Max Crosby strikes me as a little bit stronger, but he's the combination of size and speed. You're like, why is somebody that big moving that fast? That's kind of what Dallas Turner reminds me of. He's only a junior, so he's a little bit on the younger side, but I think he's fantastic. Alabama edge, Dallas Turner at 8.
Love it.
Let's go ahead and go number 7, Joe Alt, left tackle from Notre Dame. I don't think he's quite as good as the Ola Fashanu from Penn State, and we'll get to him farther up the list. But I think Joe Alt is a safer pick, if that makes sense. I think Fashanu can be a better player, thus a better prospect. His ceiling is higher. But I think Joe Alt has a higher floor. I think he's going to walk in day one and be a really, really high-end starter. I don't know if he's ever going to be the best left tackle in football. I think he's going to walk in and be a top 7 left tackle in football, and I think he'll stay somewhere around 5 to 7. And I think that is definitely worthy of a top 10 pick. I think he's fantastic, really, really good in run blocking, and can pass block. Not his strength. I think his strength is run blocking, but he's very, very good.
Also, a ton of teams looking for that guy at left tackle and
yeah,
looking
absolutely.
for that improvement on the offensive line.
Absolutely. Again, he could walk in and be a day one starter and impact player.
Yeah.
Which, that's what you're looking for, the top 10 pick anyway. So he should be. Number 6, that was the prospect I was kind of referencing there in the preview. There is Chop Robinson, the edge rusher from Penn State. Another guy, very, very high ceiling. You talk about bend and you talk about speed off the edge. He's 6'3", 250, but moves better than I think anybody I've seen at the position. He's a junior, again, so a little bit on the younger side. You're not getting a 25-year-old. You're getting a 22, 23-year-old. So Chop Robinson, to me, is unbelievable. I think he was underrated at Penn State because they have Adisa Isaac on the other side. I forget the middle linebacker's name, but they had another really good linebacker in the middle. So he was kind of underlooked, undervalued. I think Chop Robinson is fantastic. That's kind of like my hot take, him being that high. Most people have him somewhere around 12 to 15. I think he's a fringe top 5 prospect. I think he's better than Dallas Turner. I think he's better than Jared Verse, who's another popular edge rusher that's high up there in the draft. Chop Robinson at 6.
Yeah, and one thing I'm noticing, these positions, you're looking at receiver, edge rusher, quarterback, left tackle. These are all really, really important positions, especially edge rusher. If you can go get the quarterback in this league, and find that young talent. If you can find the next TJ Watt,
Yeah, you do it.
you are set up.
Yep. And I also think this draft in general, yes, that's in most drafts, those are going to be where your value positions are always, but this draft in specific is loaded with value positions. Really good tackle draft. Obviously a great quarterback class. Good wide receiver class. Good amount of edge rushers. Not great, but a good amount of edge rushers. So now into the top 5 here. Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is the best tight end prospect I think I've ever seen. Could his end line blocking be a little bit better? Sure. But I really just don't care at the NFL level if you can block. Can you block good enough? The answer is yes for Brock Bowers. And I think he's physical enough to, if need be, block. But for Georgia, it's like, hey, we don't want you getting banged up blocking. You're our best weapon. Like, I think if you went to, he won't go to a San Francisco, but if he did, in theory, or, for example, a lot of people have him going to the Chargers. What if Harbaugh gets that job? Harbaugh likes his tight ends to block, and I think Brock Bowers can, if asked to, block because he's a physical specimen. And he's a stud, obviously in route running. Reminds me a lot of a George Kittle or a Travis Kelce. Really good, pass catcher, physical at the catch point. More so Kittle than Kelce, but I think he runs better than Kittle.
I like that a lot. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 4. There's an argument he should be 2 or 3. There's really not a concern here. To me, he feels very Justin Jefferson, walk into the league 1,600 yards. Like rookie year, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson.
It's the route running, is it not? I mean, I have...
Route running, that's the thing. There's no weakness. Route running, hands, physical at the catch point.
Fair.
Uses his body well, long arms, very, very technical in terms of flashing the hands late, good at the top of the route. Like, if you did a comparison, it's like top of the route reminds me of Cooper Kupp. Catch point actually reminds me of his dad, Marvin Harrison Sr., because he got those long arms, flashes hands late, kind of like a Randy Moss style.
Route running, you're looking like a
route
Devontae
running
comparison.
Devontae, Justin Jefferson, right, kind of wiry, good cuts. Like, he is probably the best wide receiver prospect that I've seen in a long time. Number 3 is that tackle from Penn State, Ola Fashanu.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I think the ceiling is insane. I think the floor is also pretty high. I think it's a little bit lower of a floor than Joe Alt. I think if he's bad, he could be really bad. But I think if he's, maybe not really bad, but he won't be great. But I think he has the potential to be the number 1 left tackle in football within 3 years of getting there. He is massive. Like, he is actually a house. He's 6'6", 317. That's huge. And he moves better than any tackle in the draft as of right now. I mean, Joe Alt's 6'7", 322. He just doesn't move quite as well as Fashanu. So movement, size, kind of reminds me of Tyron Smith for the Cowboys coming out of USC a long time ago. So I would take Ola Fashanu 3.
You want an offensive lineman, you go digging through the Big Ten, and then this is the best of them in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
by far.
I agree. Number 2, Drake May. I think he's Josh Allen, mini Josh Allen. I think he's a stud. I saw him in person throw a left-handed touchdown pass at Pitt. That just doesn't happen. And it was accurate into coverage, and he threw it left-handed. Like, I have no words for Drake May. Physical specimen, I think there is some propensity to take too many risks, but I think there's also an argument that he had to because he's at North Carolina, which isn't necessarily loaded with talent, so he kind of had to be that guy. Right. But I think Drake May is a stud. He's 2.
That's where you get the Josh Allen comparison, huh?
Yeah.
Where it's either Drake May does it or they lose.
Yeah, I think if he can go to a situation where it's not all on Drake May, then he'll be really, really good.
Okay.
Caleb Williams at 1. I'm so done hearing the argument. Well, they should take May. I think there's a significant gap between 1 and 2. I think Drake May is fantastic. I still think there is a significant gap. I think Caleb Williams is the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, and Andrew Luck was going to be a Hall of Famer had he not retired.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. I think Caleb Williams is that good. You can cry all you want about the nail painting his nails. I don't care. I just don't care. If he is generationally good, I just don't care.
I care a little bit.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm taking my generational prospect at 1. Doesn't matter. Give me Caleb Williams at 1. Let's run back through him. Caleb at 1. Drake May at 2. Ola Fashanu at 3. Marvin Harrison and Brock Bowers at 4 and 5. Chop Robinson at 6. Alt at 7. Dallas Turner at 8. Jaden Daniels and Rome Odunze at 9 and 10, respectively.
Okay. Can I ask something?
Sure.
If Caleb Williams falls and he's not the first quarterback taken, can I paint your nails live on the show?
Sure. Absolutely. Paint them pink. I don't care.
Can we actually?
Sure.
This is so interesting, though.
Dude, I'll get somebody that works at a spa to come in here and give me a full-blown treatment on my hands while I do my rant.
Okay.
And I'll shake on that right now. If Caleb Williams isn't the first quarterback taken, again, I'm not even saying the Bears have to take him, but somebody will trade up to take him. If he is not the number 1 overall pick, I'll paint my nails. If you guys want to see some feet finder stuff, I'll paint my toenails. I don't care. I feel that strongly about it.
Okay.
But if he does go, I'm just kidding. You don't have to paint your nails because that's like too obvious that he's going to go number 1.
Okay.
Like you're taking the gamble here, so it's okay. I can live with that.
I'm just making sure because if this were to happen, we need to ride this whole nail.
Now you're just hoping that Drake May goes 1.
I can't.
You're
wait.
just praying for it.
I'm going to be. You know
You're
how I
gonna
was
be the Drake
with
May
CJ Stroud.
endorsement,
I'm just going to endorse Drake May every chance I get now.
and I'll take Caleb Williams. Thank you very much.
All right,
So,
guys, that's all we have for you today. It was a great show. Make sure you go back, listen, watch the whole thing. If you just caught some bits and pieces.
if you just caught the end, good Lord.
Yeah, we say it every time. Third segment. Anyway, go to the Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all the social media. Follow along. Keep up with the show. Subscribe to the newsletter. There's everything.
Sorry about that,
Again.
guys. I'm sorry. That one was my bad, though. I'll take that one.
There's stuff coming out with the show every single day, so make sure you're not missing anything. Guys, we'll see you back here next Thursday, and it will be February when we see you again, and gearing up for Super Bowl Sunday. So, you're not going to want to miss it. Guys, that was The Issue.